An unholy alliance. Smaug and Sauron under the same banner? Hello, and welcome back to another video from Secrets of the Rings. Together we enter a new theme, and speculate on the possibility of an alliance between the forces of chaos and fire carried by Smaug, and darkness and evil carried by Sauron. We designed two possible outcomes for our experiment. The first one, seen today, is if this alliance successfully subjugates the free people of Middle-earth. How could that happen? We begin our thesis with the event that the 13 Dwarf and 1 Hobbit company failed its mission. For the sake of the free peoples of Middle-earth, Bilbo and Gandalf still survived the journey, but arrived too late, and emissaries from Sauron, dispatched from Dol Guldur, ended up arriving first and delivered gifts and promises to the cunning dragon Smaug, appeasing his appetite for more control and gold over the northern lands inhabited by dwarves. From this wretched alliance, a new force is born, a force so strong for the free folk that they are all obliged to retreat. From this point on, Gandalf's worst dreams begin to come to fruition. First, we would see Dale burn, with the village being taken by complete surprise by the enemy, as it was in the past. Ashes and smoke would be seen in the distance by Thranduil's elven clan, and preparations would be made to prepare for the dragon's next assault, while also sending messengers to the other elven strongholds to alert them. But the dragon had other plans, and so did Sauron, who would be weaving plans together with the winged serpent. Because the attack would be noticed by Thranduil's scouts, they knew the elves would likely decide to leave the woods of Mirkwood to entrench themselves. So the evil host would begin to burn the forest around it, beginning a siege and interrupting the supply routes of the elves, isolating them from the other nations. Next, the dragon would spend little or no extra time on Mirkwood, quickly hovering over to the next objective, Rivendell. This stronghold would be better prepared from the evil forces though, offering resistance to the dragon and Sauron's army. The dragon would arrive before Mirkwood's messengers, but the foresight of Elrond would enable Rivendell to successfully deflect the assault, using the advantage of the thin mountain passages, rendering it harder for larger hosts to assault. The elves and their craftsmen would also have the power of their weapons, and the power of the elven rings, as Sauron still did not have the One Ring, to counter the dragon's might. Though this was only a limited time alternative to combat the dragon and Sauron's forces, Sauron's One Ring would still reside with Bilbo, who would have accompanied Gandalf into Mirkwood, seeking refuge and becoming protected by the elves. Gandalf and Bilbo's whereabouts would not then be known by the enemy. After the first blitz, and putting both the Mirkwood elves and Rivendell's forces on siege stance, the dragon would then retreat at Sauron's request, as the objective of rendering the elves apart, isolated from each other, was successful. Lothlorien, possibly the last elven stronghold, strong enough to sustain a considerable attack from the enemy, is now facing a dilemma. If they decide to assist their northern brethren by going to their aid, or by attacking Dol Guldur, which is partially empty due to all their forces that left to attack the northern regions, they risk exposure from the attacks coming from the south, from Mordor, and also from Saruman, who has not yet openly revealed himself as an enemy. The situation is dire and gets worse by the day. The elves can flee and leave Middle-earth. If they leave swiftly through Rohan, hoping not to sound any alarms, they could come to their kin's assistance. Or they can fortify themselves and stay in place, hoping that the higher ground may lead them to an unlikely victory. With Gandalf caught in the middle of the siege at Mirkwood, and unable to escape the siege, Elrond at Rivendell holding the last stand, and Galadriel deciding to fortify her forces, casting spells over the forest and preparing for the worst, the fate of men is now also partially sealed. Saruman decides to oust himself and reveal his true intentions, beginning his campaign from the south, attacking Rohan by the north, but also casting a long cloud covering Isengard through the mountains, all the way to Dol Guldur. From Dol Guldur, a black and thick cloud would also be cast, covering the forest and traveling west up until Lothlorien. The winds would also push the clouds and smoke to the north, to Rivendell. And lastly, from the north, from Gundabad, The Witch King would use his power to cover the land with his darkness and more clouds, making them travel south and cover the entire region with a long night. With Rivendell, Mirkwood, and nearly all Lothlorien covered in darkness, the evil host would feel stronger and more confident by the hour. The last hope coming from above would be the Eagles. The Eagles would pierce the black clouds and begin their raid, trying to assist the elves. Sauron would be prepared for it, and using Smaug as the primary bait, he'd lure them into the mountains, where a garrison of fell beasts and other giant flying bats and creatures would be lurking, waiting for the right moment to attack. Flooded by the surprise attack, Sauron would deliver the last blow, making his Nazgul hunt the distracted birds. With the Eagles now out of the equation, there was no surprise force left in Middle-earth that could oppose Smaug and Sauron. Soon enough, the dragon would lay siege to Osgiliath and Minas Tirith in Gondor, attempting to go directly for the strongest settlements first. Osgiliath would fall, and although the White City would likely endure more time, Smaug would be able to swiftly break the walls and barricades of the city with his fire breath. The evil dragon would most likely be wounded by now, and could perish in this battle, more easily than the previous ones after the Eagles' attack. But the damage would already be done. With the walls and gates destroyed, the evil host would take the city down, street by street, gate by gate, level by level, until reaching the top circle, where Sauron would put his wraiths in command, burning down the last white tree planted by the Númenórean lineage of kings. As the kingdom of Gondor falls, so does the last hope of men from the west. Sauron would begin his reign, a darker and fiercer one than ever before, and soon enough, the One Ring would also return to his hand. Mirkwood could endure some time and possess secret passages for Bilbo and Gandalf to leave, but safe passages would not get them far enough from danger, and soon the enemy would catch up for one last strike. Tributes would be paid in full in Sauron's honor, and if Smaug survived, he would likely act as one of Sauron's captains in the north, hunting the last dwarves for sport as they hide in their caves. If Smaug perished in one of the last assaults on the Free Folk, it would be even better for Sauron, as he would not need to attend to any of the dragon's future requests. Rohan would be a burned down and nearly empty plain. Gondor would be producing food and other resources for Sauron's forces, such as slaves for his war machines. And the last elves would perish in battle one by one, until the Grey Havens would be taken by the enemy, or simply left empty, as the last ship flees to the west. This is the likely grim tale of eternal night that would fall over Middle-earth in a fourth age of darkness and dread, led by Sauron and his minions, if they won over the war with the aid of Smaug.